Hi everyone, and welcome to week 4, in which we will be starting the job application unit. This unit will end in week 7, and here's sort of an overview of what it will look like. This week you will look for jobs to apply to, and you'll learn about the rhetorical situation of applying to a job. Next week you'll work on your cover letters and your resumes. Week 6 you will do a peer review of your documents, and week 7 you'll revise and you'll submit. First, we want to talk about the rhetorical situation. Every writing and speaking experience has a rhetorical situation. This is just a general model. At the top, you see the message and the purpose. At the bottom, you see the speaker or the writer and the audience. In the middle of the triangle is the genre of the writing or the speech. Or perhaps you can think of it as the occasion. And then you can see on the outside of the circle is the cultural context. If you don't know what rhetoric is, essentially it's the art of using language to persuade or influence others. And a genre is just a formalized type of writing or speaking specified by conventions or unwritten rules about form, structure, tone, etc. So this is a rhetorical situation model of what we're actually working with, applying for a job. And you'll see that each of the areas is now more specific. So in the middle, you have the genre and the occasion. The genres are going to be cover letter and resume. And of course, the occasion is the need to acquire a new job. At the top, your message or purpose for these documents is, I am the person you should hire for this job. Or you might take a step back and think, I am one of the people that you should invite in for an interview, because that's really what your written documents are asking for. The speaker, or the writer in this case, is of course you, and the audience will be probably first someone in HR, and then if you make it through that round, then you'll move on to the people on the hiring committee. The cultural context here could be lots of different things. It might include the current job market, so how many jobs are out there and how many people are seeking these jobs. The culture of the place of employment. Sometimes you'll hear this called the corporate culture. Even if a place isn't a corporation, it's still going to have a culture. For example, at Google, people ride around on roller skates, supposedly. At Goldman Sachs, people probably still wear three-piece suits. You might want to be aware of international connections that business or place of employment has. For example, my sister works for a company that does a lot of work in the Middle East, so knowing the etiquette there is important. You might also want to know recent events or changes within the business. Is there a new CEO? Perhaps there's recently been some bad press for that business. You should be aware of what's going on with them. So the rhetoric in this situation is that you're trying to persuade the people that are hiring that you're the best person for the position or the best person to get an interview. The genre is going to be cover letters and resumes. And you should know that in some fields and in some countries such as England, they use a thing called a CV or a curriculum vitae in place of a resume, and that has some of its own rules itself. This assignment, you'll have a few more pieces as well. You're going to have 2 cover letters and 2 resumes. You're also going to have your rhetorical choices report, so make sure that you read the assignment sheet to know exactly what I'm looking for. So there's going to be a lot thrown at you in the next few weeks, and you're going to be looking on your own as well. You can find 10 million websites about cover letters and resumes. Our textbook gives a really solid introduction to cover letters, resumes, the process of researching and applying for jobs, and it continues on to the interview phase as well. Basically, advice for applying for jobs can be overwhelming. The following, however, are the 5 essential lessons of this unit, and I want you to keep these in mind as you work. Number 1, each job you apply to is its own unique rhetorical situation. You need to carefully read the job ad, research into that specific employer and what they value and what they need. And that will be the best guide for composing a cover letter and a resume. Templates that you find online, advice that you get from anyone, those are just suggestions. They're not hard and fast rules. Number 2, tone is crucial in both the cover letter and the resume. The tone is how you're sending the message about yourself as opposed to the content. You don't want to send the wrong impression of yourself. You don't want to sound bossy or demanding or like you have an inflated sense of yourself or you don't have enough self-esteem. It's complicated. So how you send the message matters just as much as whether you're qualified or not, and if you're getting those qualifications across. So tone can be conveyed as much by appearance of these documents, so format, as well as their actual content. Number 3, cover letters and resumes invite a certain level of reading, and actually different levels of reading at different stages that you move through the job application process. When the first person looks through it, they're probably just going to scan your resume. Scanning is even less deep than skimming. They're just going to look for certain things. A cover letter may not even be read in the first process, even though it seems like it should be the first thing that's read. In the next stage, the cover letter will likely be skimmed. So they won't even read it in depth. They'll just skim it for main ideas. At certain stages, if you get to the top 10 people, the top 5 people, the documents will be read very carefully. And unfortunately, sometimes they skim and scan for things like errors. And if they find errors, they'll just throw it out. So being aware of how to use these documents with keeping that level of reading in mind, so placing things in certain areas, structuring a cover letter around key assertions that the body paragraphs then develop and discuss, structuring a resume so that the most essential information is in the most important space on the page. Those things will be important. Number 4, a resume is not an autobiography. We don't need to know everything about your work life. In fact, you don't even need to keep it in order of chronology, like you're often taught. The content and placement of the information on the resume, from what categories to include to where to list dates, are entirely specific to the situation of each individual job. Number 5, it is possible to eliminate error in the 2 pages that you would submit for a job. 1 page for your resume and 1 page for your cover letter. Think of every error, either of content or format, as an opportunity for you to be set aside in favor of some other applicant. What they'll think is, if you don't care enough about the job to spend serious time revising and ensuring the correctness of your documents, then it may be harsh, but you probably don't deserve the job. So those are the 5 essential items that I want you to take away from this unit. Think about them as you're working over the next few weeks. The next steps for this week would be to read the assignment sheet very carefully. It's very long, it's very in-depth. Read it now and return to it frequently as you're working on the documents over the next few weeks. This week, you're going to read Chapter 15. You'll notice on page 514, that's where it will start giving you information on how to look for jobs. And then go ahead and start finding the job ads that you want to work with over the next few weeks, and that you will submit your resume, your cover letter, and then your rhetorical choices report on in week 7. Good luck. Let me know if you have questions.